Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar HR Toolkit. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions. So my name is Sam Connor. I'm part of the sales engineer team here at Interface, and we're a Bitrix24 Gold partner. We're based in the UK, the US and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to help you with your Bitrix24 system. So starting off with pre-sale support, we can assist you with the evaluation of your Bitrix24 system. If you then decide Bitrix is the right product, we can provide full implementation services for you to set up the Bitrix24 system to work the way you need the system to run for your business. If you are interested in the self-hosted edition of Bitrix24, we offer our own hosting services, and we can provide you with training and ongoing dedicated support to make sure you get the most value out of your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on the HR features of the Bitrix24 system. But if you are coming to today's webinar, maybe you are actually just evaluating Bitrix as a whole, it's important to understand what Bitrix24 actually offers. So first of all, Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. And specifically today, we're going to be focusing on the HR features that we can use within the system. There are over now 12 million customers that use the Bitrix24 system, and it's available in two different editions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and then the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. Now, as we go into different aspects of today's webinar, we'll see some of the differences. Really, everything we're looking at today is available on all the self-hosted editions of Bitrix and all of the professional cloud and enterprise cloud systems. Now, in terms of pricing, prices start from around $49 per month for a cloud-based system and $2,990 for a self-hosted business 50. So that's a 50 user package. And it is called a lifetime license, but each year with the self-hosted system, you do need to renew to continue receiving updates and access to the system. And the renewal fee is approximately 25% of the license cost. So it's important to bear in mind those costs when looking at Bitrix24. Okay, so today's webinar, we are focusing on the HR features. So it's important to actually understand why we should use Bitrix24 for our HR requirements. So first of all, Bitrix has lots of tools to easily find information about your staff. So we have areas to store details about our employees. We can manage users' work time, not just in terms of their day-to-day, but also drilling down to tasks where we can have focused time on each task that an employee is working on. We also have areas for contracts, and we can then also set business processes on those documents, such as an approval process. So there's lots of unique tools within the Bitrix24 system, which could be useful for your HR department's requirements. There are also self-service forms. So a self-service form essentially is a type of workflow that you can design in your Bitrix24 system. So this could be to manage different types of processes such as absence requests. It could be expenses, purchase requests, or you could even build your very own bespoke process, such as a custom onboarding process for managing new starters, for example. So you can start to see how customizable the toolkit within the HR modules are for customizing your own workflows into the Bitrix24 system. And we will spend, especially towards the second part of today's webinar, we will focus heavily on how we can build our own workflows inside the system. Okay, but first of all, let's go into our Bitrix24 system and let's take a look at the key core features of the HR features for Bitrix24. So let's first of all take a look at our profile and company structure. Okay, so we've headed now into our Bitrix24 system. Now, first of all, if you are brand new to Bitrix, just to explain, on the left-hand side, we have the modules here. So we can click into each of these different modules. And as I say, there are over 40 different modules on the system. Now, we're not going to be looking at all of those today, but make sure you do come to our other webinars where we do focus on those other modules as well. And this is the cloud-based edition of Bitrix24. So actually, what you can do is you don't need to be in your office to have access to this. You could be working remotely. So if your teams work maybe all over the world, Bitrix24 is a great solution for managing really any type of process across different departments, no matter where you are, because it's completely cloud accessible. Now, first of all, just to explain, in the top right-hand corner here, we can see Max Smith. So this is the user that we are logged in as on the system. And each user has their own profile page. So I can click on my profile, and then I can see all of the details about myself on the system here on my profile. So I can store my details. So if I needed to update some information, I can update that like so. And it's also possible to create your own custom fields. So if you wanted to maybe store some additional information actually inside your profile, you could create a custom field to store that information inside the system. And I could even change the layout here of my contact information. So you can start to see how flexible and customizable this process could be. Now, one quite popular way maybe to capture custom information is maybe creating an area to actually associate what skill set you have within the organization. So it could be later on, we'll see how we could filter on this information to find a specific type of employee who I want to speak to about payroll, for example. So you could start to actually pull this information into different areas of Bitrix24 that we're going to have a look at shortly. But in terms of the profile page as well, just to mention here, you can see we've got an avatar to actually have an image. So that could be a real picture, essentially, of yourself there on your page. And then I can see all of my leave inside the system as well. So this is using a custom plugin that we have developed to interface. What we can do is pull any annual leave requests and feed this information into your profile page. So I could even cancel a request directly from the system here. So that's a custom feature we've developed, which is only available for the on-premise edition. And we'll have a look at that in more detail shortly. But then also in your profile, we have different shortcuts. So I can shortcut to my task page. So I can see all the tasks that I currently have associated with me, and I can click into those tasks and it will take me to that task page where I can see all of the information about that task. I want to see my calendar, for example, I could open up my calendar. So the profile page is really useful to store your information and then have shortcuts to the most used areas of your Bitrix24 system with those tabs across the top. So that's looking at one individual user's profile page, but it's also important to understand the whole organization as well. So inside our employee module here, what we can do is we can set up a company structure. So inside here, what we can see is we can add all of the departments that we have within our organization. And that can include sub-departments. So you can see here, sales USA, and then we have our cold calling department attached to that department like so. And then I can add each user to their relevant departments, or it could be multiple departments that we actually add them to. And this structure is then used in quite a few different areas of the Bitrix24 system. So first of all, it's used in the CRM system. So let's say, for example, everyone in the sales UK team, we might say they can only see the leads from maybe someone who is within that department who is responsible for those leads. So they couldn't then see the leads of the Hong Kong department, for example. So it's used in terms of permission control in the CRM system. If I go to, say, our chat and call feature, if I want to have maybe a private chat with a group of people, then that also then brings up the department structure inside our chat system. So let's say if I want to speak with everyone in the Sales UK department, it's brought all of those people from that department structure into this channel here so I can communicate with them. Okay, so I can now send that message to our Sales UK team, and let's just rename the chat. So what I can now do is I can have a private conversation here with that particular department, and that can be an instant chat. So like we've just set up there, that's an instant chat, but we can also do video calling. So that's HD video calls and also voice calling. So there's a variety of ways we can actually communicate with the rest of our teams and departments inside the Bitrix24 system. So you can really decide what's most useful for you and your teams, and then you can then store all of that history directly inside your chats here. So you have that history saved inside your Bitrix24 system. So we mentioned earlier on about how you may have maybe offices all over the world. The Bitrix24 HR tools really allow you to collaborate the most effective way inside a HR solution like so. Okay, so that's a look there at our instant chat and communication channels with another department. And if you do have any questions about this, please do add them into the question box on this LinkedIn page or on the Zoom page, and we can answer those during today's intervals. Okay, so let's just move out of there and go back into our company structure. So what we can now see is actually within here, we have an employee module as well. This will show the information from that company structure, but in a slightly different format. So this is more like your employee directory. So inside here, I can see all of the information about our employees, and I can customize the layout of this database here. So I could select what fields I want to show in this front end. And then I could drill down to find a particular employee in the system, for example. So if I wanted to speak with Mark, I could go to Mark's profile page. I could set up a chat with him directly from that profile. So it's very simple to start communications from the employee directory. But what's also useful is this will pull information from the profile pages. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to find an employee in the organization who has the payroll skill, and I maybe have a question about payroll, I need to speak with somebody who has that skills to answer my question. And I could drill down into that data. So that's looking at that custom field information from the profile page, and it's feeding it into that employee database here for almost our own easy way to navigate to the correct person within the business for any types of questions. So that could be really useful if you're a new starter, for example. You don't maybe know everybody yet inside the business. Using the employee information here and this company structure can really help new starters to familiarize themselves with their organization, and that will help them to be onboarded a lot quicker within your company. Okay, so that's a look at the company structure inside the system. And now let's take a look at the time management and reporting tools. So within our system here, you do need a professional cloud system as a minimum to access this feature. This is the clock in and clock out feature. So inside here, what I can do for my working day, I can log the duration that I am working directly inside the Bitrix24 system. So I can click on here and it will now clock me in. And it's now recording here the amount of time that I am adding for my working day for today. So if we go into our time and report section, and if we go into our work time module, this is really where your HR team would access. Then inside here, we can start to log all of the working time that we have spent inside for each staff member. So inside here, I can see when John clocked in, when he clocked out, the amount of time he spent here. And me as in the HR team, I could then comment back to John saying, thank you for logging your time. So if if your HR team have any questions, they could actually communicate with that person on this particular report. And that information is then approved inside the system. So this is a really nice way to make sure your staff are logging every day they're working. That time can then be logged directly inside the system here. So if there's any discrepancies, that information will show up on your work time reports. Now, a question we do get quite a lot is how can I turn that feature off for certain users? Well, what we can do as an administrator here in the time and report section, if I click on the little clock indicator next to that user, I can then turn on or turn off the work time management feature. So you can really control here actually who is responsible for logging their time inside the Bitrix24 system. Now you can see where I'm working right now. I can also log my break. So actually when I go on my breaks throughout the working day, I can log that as separate time inside my Bitrix24 platform as well. Okay, and another area where we can also log time are on tasks. So inside any task that you're working on in Bitrix24, you have the ability here to log the amount of time on each individual task. So that's quite useful because if you are working on maybe lots of tasks and maybe this are tasks associated with a client, for example, then what we can do is I can very granularize the amount of time that we're spending on every single task inside the system. So it's recording that time now on the task. And what you can also do is you can manually add that time as well. Okay, so if you've maybe forgotten to record time, then I could go back into here and manually add that time onto that task as well. So there's two different ways there you can log time on a task. Okay, so that's a look at managing time on the overall day-to-day operations in Bitrix, but also on your granular tasks as well that we have inside the system. Okay, moving on, we'll now go into our drive area. So this is a really popular HR feature within the Bitrix24 system. So here you have your own personal drive space where you can store your documents and files. And what's really nice inside here is what we can do is we could set access rights. So on any of these documents that I'm storing in my personal drive area, I could maybe give certain users access rights to be able to access those documents. So here you can see Mark Hope has full access. So that's my manager. I've given full access to that document. And maybe I want to allow other people, maybe say within the HR department, let's add all of those to be able to read that document within my drive area. So again, that's using the company structure to pull certain information into here so I can then give access rights to everyone inside the HR department. So you can start to see how different elements of the HR modules are interconnected to give you a really robust system. So that's storing the documents inside my own personal drive area. I can add other documents as well. And really popular are the Bitrix24 docs. So this is quite a new feature within the Bitrix24 system. Essentially, it's an online document collaboration center. So very similar to other applications out there where you can store information on documents. You can also then collaborate with other users. So this is a live editing document that any of the users on this Bitrix24 system could also edit with me. So that's really powerful. If, like we mentioned at the start, if you've got people in different offices, you could actually be editing documents live wherever you are around the world using the Bitrix Docs feature there. And then we also have our company drive. So the company drive is essentially like the company library repository here. So inside here, I could store all of the maybe documents and files for each department, like we've got our IT department and the marketing department here. And again, we could set access rights for who can access different folders. And then we could store information inside here using our either local integrations, or maybe you want to integrate with Google Docs or Office 365. to add documents into your Drive area as well. Okay, and just to mention, in terms of the Bitrix docs that we just looked at, it's also available in a spreadsheet format and presentation format as well. So that's a really nice feature available inside the documents area. And if you're unsure where that may be located on your Bitrix system, I would recommend just checking in the collaboration area here on the drop-down arrow, and you'll most likely see the documents feature there that you can then enable. Okay, so that's a look at our documents inside the system. If there are any questions, please do add them into the question box and we can answer those. We're going to shortly run into an interval so we can answer those questions for you. Now, one really important feature within the Bitrix system, because Bitrix started off as an intranet system, are the employee engagement tools. So what we have within the system are lots of tools to engage with our employees. Now, first of all, what we can do is we could send out inside the feed section here. This is essentially your own personal newsfeed board. So really any article, any comment, any task where you're tagged in, that will feed that information into your own feed area. So this is really where you want to, when you log into your Bitrix system, this should be your first point of call to see any new updates across the platform. They will be fed to your feed section. And within the feed section here, there are lots of different types of posts that you can create. And one of those, for example, is an appreciation. So let's say somebody has done a really good piece of work. You want to acknowledge that good piece of work. And the way you can do that is with an appreciation. So first of all, what we can do is I can choose who I want to send the actual message to. I want to make everyone in the business aware about this appreciation. So I'm going to send this to all employees. And then in the recipient area here, I'm actually choosing who this appreciation is for. Okay, so I'm going to choose here, it's going to be for Mark, and then I can select the type of badge that I want to give on this appreciation. So you can really start to personalize this. So I'm going to choose the trophy there, and then within this box area, I can actually type out the message about what the appreciation is. And this is what everyone can then see as I'm sending this to all employees. Okay, so we're adding that message and now we're going to post this out. So that's going to be sent to everyone as we've sent it to all employees, but this is for Mark. And if we just now log in as Mark in the system here, we can see Mark has received this message and Mark can then respond to those messages. So it could be if you're working in different offices, this is just a really nice, simple way to show your appreciation for another employee. And that can really help to improve engagement across the teams. And if we go to Mark's profile page, what you will then be able to see is all of those appreciations are added into their profile. So I can see the one that we've just submitted there, that's been added into Mark's profile page. So it's little things like that which can go a long way to improving staff engagement. And that's just one type of post that you can add into the feed. Another one, for example, is an announcement. So really, with an announcement, this is for a critical message. So let's say if the office is closed next week, it's quite a critical message. I need everyone to be aware of that. So let's type out an announcement now. Okay, so again, I can choose who I want to send this to. So again, this is where that company structure comes into play, but I want to send this to all employees because it's a critical message. And I can show here, I can decide how long I want to show that announcement at the top of the feed for. So I'm going to say that's there for a week. Okay, so let's add that announcement. And you'll see the key difference here is if we now go back into Mark's profile, an announcement has a button here where we can mark that we have read that message. So for critical messages, you really want to force your users to show and acknowledge that they have seen that message. If you sent an email, there's no guarantee. So this is a really nice way to show that you have acknowledged that message. So I can mark that as being read inside the system, and I can now see that's been completed and read by 2 users. So again, for critical messages, the announcement feature is a really nice way to actually get that information across to your teams. So you can see with the feed section, there's lots of useful ways here that we can then improve engagement by different types of posts inside the system. You could also do a poll, for example. So let's say Christmas party location. Okay, so you can add a poll, let people add their choice for maybe different answers that you can let them select from. And so again, this becomes a really fun and interactive way to engage with the team inside your Bitrix24 system. So there is a poll, for example, that you can send to the rest of your team to get answers to particular questions. Now, another feature within here is the company pulse. So this is quite nice because the pulse gives you a clear overview of which areas of the system your users are using the most, essentially. So you can search by either individuals, or it could be based on the company, and you can choose your date range as well for actually the reporting period. And this will then show you which areas of the system is being used the most. So I can see right now the CRM system is the most heavily used module inside the system. So this essentially allows you to actually analyze the data and then promote those areas maybe that are underutilized, so you can start to get even more value out of your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so a look at a very high level view of the key HR features within the Bitrix24 system. So let's just see if we have any questions. Okay, so is there a way to disable the time tracker feature? So yes, there is. If we just go back into our system, so you can see right now we're using the time tracking feature, but obviously for some people it may not be a requirement. So what we can do is if we go back to our employees section, and if we go to time and reports and go to our work time area, on the left-hand side, you can see all of your employees. Now, what we can do here is if I click on and hover over that user there, then you can see the clock image. All you need to do is click on that clock, and then the work time management feature here, you want to turn that off, and that will disable the feature. So if I do that now, for example, on our user, which is Max Smith, if I turn off that feature and save, and then let's just refresh, you can see now they don't need to clock in or clock out. There is no flashing. It's completely turned off from the system. So now that just shows a time of the day. Okay, so that's a really simple way to actually turn off the feature if it is not required in the system. Okay, so we've looked there at some of the key HR core features, but now what we want to do is actually evaluate how we can design and build our very own workflows inside the Bitrix24 system. And the way we can do this is a variety of ways. But first of all, I want to show you what we call the Business Process Designer tool, because this tool essentially allows you to build your very own workflows, which could be HR orientated, directly inside the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our feed section, and then we're going to click on the More button here, and that opens up the option there where we can see the workflow tool. So if we click on the workflow, this opens up the workflows that we have available to run from our homepage. So first of all, I'm going to run this workflow, and then we're going to look at the actual back end of the system at the Business Process Designer tool to actually see how this works in the background of the Bitrix24 system. So we're going to request some annual leave inside the system here using the request leave form. So what I want to do is I want to submit for some holiday leave, and this is going to go to my manager to either approve or either to reject as well inside the Bitrix24 system. So first of all, I need to input my information on this form. Now, the details here, we can see what's mandatory, what's optional. This is all completely customizable. So you could decide what fields you want to show here. There may be some additional fields you want to show. That's absolutely fine. It is customizable for your particular process. So I'm going to select in here, I'm going to select the days that I want to submit for leave. And then I can add a reason for my request and the absence type there. So I'm going to submit that request. And now what you can see is on my feed, because this is associated with me, I've submitted this request. That's now showing that I have progressed my request leave and it's gone to Mark. And we're waiting for a decision here. So we're waiting to have this approved or rejected inside the system. So on Mark's profile, you can see that looks slightly different because Mark is the actual approver of that workflow. So now Mark can see all of the information about the request, and then Mark can decide whether to approve or reject that request inside the system. So let's approve that for Max. And then if we go back into our request area here, what will happen is this will get updated. And if we go into our employee module, any request across the organization, you will then be able to see that's been approved directly inside the absence chart. So this is under the time and report section in the absence chart area. You can then see all of the requests across the organization, and you could drill down to a particular department as well and see all of that information. So Max's request for the 26th and 27th of January next year, you can see that has been approved and added to their calendar. Now, a feature we have for the on-premise edition of Bitrix is the ability to add leave entitlements to each user. So you may have an entitlement number for every year. You may say have 25 days worth of holiday. As standard, the Bitrix24 system doesn't have that entitlement feature. So if you want to enable a user to have X number of days holiday per year, we can enable that feature, but it's only available with the on-premise edition, and it's a custom plugin we have built here at Interface that we can install onto your system. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're thinking maybe having an entitlement for each user would be a feature you want, please do get in contact and we can discuss that feature in more detail with you. But what I want to do just now is actually go back into that workflow, and I just want to show you the Business Process Designer tool that actually built that workflow, so you can see how that works inside the system. Okay, so this is one type of business process. So this is a state-run business process. So here you have different stages, and then within there you have different actions which are triggered at that particular status. And if we just go back into look at a different type of process, because this is called a sequential business process. If we go into this leave approval, this is, as you can see, very different. And the key difference here is there is a start point and there is an end point. And then the workflow will go through that entire flow in a sequential process. So that's why we call it a sequential business process. And with this workflow, first of all, this is the workflow we have just completed. So first of all, we requested leave in the system. So we completed that form. It then went to our supervisor to either approve or reject inside the system. And thankfully, they approved that request. So that took it down this area. This is going through a condition. So it was approved. And then based on that approval, we were then notified and it was added to the absence chart here, like we saw. But if it was rejected, then what would happen? It would go down the right-hand channel here and we would just be notified that that request had been denied. So based on those conditions, it's creating a completely different type of workflow based on that condition on the approval. So you can start to see how you could really build any type of process using the business process designer tool here. On the right hand side, we have all the different conditions that we can add. So these are what we call action blocks. So you could really customize this to the way you want to work and design your workflow. And our team here at Interface, we can build out workflows for you, or we can provide training and support to help you, enable you to build those workflows as well. So there's lots of different ways we can assist you to use the business process designer tool. And another really popular type of workflow which you could run inside the system is maybe to create a new project workflow. So let's say if a new customer has just been onboarded, you then want to bring a group of people together to actually work on that client's project. Rather than having to manually do this, we could run a workflow that automates this process for us inside the system. So let's give this project a new title. And then I've got some different parameters this time compared to the leave request form. So again, you can customize exactly what information you need to input on this particular project. Okay, so let's just actually change that deadline. Got the description. And then we've mentioned already how you can have conditions onto your workflows. Now here, if I choose project A, that's going to create a project with specific tasks. If I selected project B, the tasks would be completely different. So again, you can start to see how conditions can be used to really customize the type of workflow that is created. Okay, so that's now been sent to me. I've been added as the project manager. So I'm going to approve this to be added and accepted as me being the project manager. So we can see now a new project has been created. So if we go into our project area, I can see 2023 Client A project has been created. And I can see specific tasks have now been added into this project. So that's without any human interference. It's automatically done that based on selecting the type of project that this project would be. It's then created that specific group of tasks. So again, that could save manual time. So that's going to save you time so you can focus on other areas of your business by streamlining the creation of the project. And it also means there's less human error. There's less human interference, which can be prone to errors. So using these business processes will save you significant time and prevent any human error on any type of workflow that you may run inside the system. So let's look at how we could create a project. Now, another way you could even run that is actually if we go into the CRM system, and let's say inside our deals, when we come to close a deal opportunity, then we also have access to the business process designer tool inside here. So when we say go to the deal 1 stage, then what we could do is we could use that workflow designer tool to actually create a project at that specific stage of the deal process. So a slightly different way of doing it, but again, a really effective and an intuitive way of managing the creation of a new project inside the CRM system when your deal hits a specific stage. And I also just wanted to show you another feature, so slightly different to the business process designer tool. This is called Robotix Process Automation. And it does use very similar types of a process in the sense of here, we use, instead of the workflow designer tool, we use a lot of the functionality from the CRM system. So as we've just seen inside leads and deals, where you've got stages, the Robotix Process Automation tool uses very similar structure. So it uses stages. So for example, here we have a recruitment workflow. So as we can see here, we've got different stages that we're progressing all of the applicants who we are potentially going to recruit into the business. And at each of those different stages, we have different automations that we have set up inside the system. So for example, as soon as we get to the phone interview stage, we're going to send out an automated email to the applicant thanking them for their inquiry and asking them to book a call inside the system. So we could do in either external communications to potential applicants, or it could be internal activities. So for example, here, when we get to the hiring stage, we're going to ask a particular HR member to approve or reject that hire inside the system. So as we progress through, all of that record is updated inside the system. And you have a record page here where you can store all of the details about that particular request inside the system. So this is just to show, compared to the business process designer tool, the robotic process automation tool can also be used to design workflows, but in a very different framework. So this is something to bear in mind that we can help you with to construct workflows in the most appropriate manner for your requirements. Okay, so in summary today, we've seen how within the Bitrix24 system, we can manage our own profile, storing information, and also store information as a company whole inside the company structure. We've seen how we can log time on our working day and individual tasks using the time management features. And we can store information such as contracts and appraisals in our own personal drive area. I think a key point to come out of today's HR Toolkit webinar is how we can engage with our employees through lots of different ways, from live chat, video calling. We can do different types of posts, such as announcements or appreciations with badges to our teams. So you can really make sure your employees are engaged no matter where they are. And we've seen how we can control access permissions across different elements, such as workflows, such as Drive modules as well. And we can also use the self-service forms to create our very own business processes, whether that be absence requests, whether it be recruitment workflows. Bitrix24 gives you the ability, using the business process designer, the robotic process automation, and also lead and deal automations, to create any type of workflow that you require for your HR requirements. Okay, so thank you very much for joining today's HR Toolkit webinar. Here are a selection of up-and-coming webinars. We're here every other Tuesday for our Bitrix24 webinars, and you can register here, www.interface.com/webinars. Please do join our up-and-coming webinars. Or if you have any questions in the meantime, please do contact sales@interface.com. And one of our team will be happy to connect with you to discuss your requirements in more detail. Thank you very much for your time today, and bye for now.